During this video, we're going to do a demonstration of the Ledgersync product showing all the features and functionality built inside. Now keep in mind, you can also schedule a live demo where you can ask your own specific unique questions to learn how you can use this specific for your product, of course. So let's go ahead and dive into our demo. So as we get started, what is Ledgersync? Ledgersync is a unified dashboard for all of your clients' financial information all in one single place. What we mean by that is we allow you to connect all of your clients' checking, savings, and credit card accounts, pull in transactions, statements, and images for certain financial institutions, so you don't have to go log in and out of every institution every month to capture the information necessary to complete the monthly financial accounting. Please keep in mind, the information that we're showing during this demonstration is limited on purpose so as to not give away real financial data. So to get started, let's talk about the dashboard within Ledgersync. On the far left-hand side, you're going to notice a list of all of the different clients that you add into Ledgersync. When you select any of those clients, any accounts that you have connected, financial institutions being checking, savings, or credit card accounts, will show up as individual boxes here. Once selected, across the top, you'll see Summary, which would give you a summary of all the accounts that you've connected, because whatever accounts you have access to when you log in with your username and password, we'll be able to pull that information for you. You'll see transactions, the running balance, statements, and the check and deposit images depending on the financial institution and the availability of that information. Now, I want to draw attention to our red box here. It says text client to fix. We're going to come back to this in a little bit when we talk about our client communication center. But before we do that, let's step back a bit, talk about how to add a client on and how to add on that very first financial institution. Adding a new client is pretty simple. You're going to come up to the Add Client, and you'll see this new pop-up. Add in, you can either add the name in. Most people like to do the company name itself, an email address, and a username as well. Now, the username must be unique every time. You can use the same email address if you need to in scenarios if you have clients that have multiple different businesses and you're looking to have them set up with different accounts. The thing we really want to draw attention to is going to be the cell phone number and then this SMS invitation. Now, this becomes more important because of the way more financial institutions are requiring the primary person to be the one to connect any kind of third-party application. So we strongly suggest that you always add in the person's cell phone number and do this SMS invitation. You can also go through and pre-select different banks that you know they need to connect to. This is type to finish, so we can go Bank of America to find it, of course, or Wells Fargo, so forth. Any of the ones that you like to pre-populate. And by doing it this way, it will send an individual text message to them to add on their own security credentials for each of those different institutions. Now, if you don't wish to do it that way, you can, of course, send via email or not send an invitation at all if you already have that information. I cannot stress enough how important it is to actually invite your client and have them make those connections. Again, more and more of the institutions are switching over to API connections, and we find when you do it this way on purpose, the connectivity lasts much longer. For example, we've had people connected to Bank of America now for over a year without any kind of challenges whatsoever. There's also institutions like Bank of America and Wells Fargo that won't even let you do third-party access to make those connections. So once you sent the invite to your client, they're going to see a screen that looks very much just like this. The top two boxes are the two primary ones to pay attention to. We have partnered with Mastercard to provide us access to over 10,000 financial institutions. That's more connections than any of the cloud accounting platforms do by themselves. The reason this is important is Mastercard has made arrangements with these institutions to whitelist certain IP addresses so you don't have this issue where you're having to redo the connectivity over and over again. That used to be a primary issue when you'd have the business owner logging in from one IP address and then you as an accountant doing it from your office or somewhere else, or even global team members. So this really strengthens those connections. When you click on the Mastercard connection, you're then going to see another pop-up screen, and it's going to give you the ability to choose either icons for the big ones, or you can go through and search through a list of different institutions by typing in and see which ones are here. Again, we connect with over 10,000 different institutions, and if there's one that we do not support, you can reach out to our team. That is where our secondary option comes into play here, our premium bank connections. From time to time, Mastercard doesn't have one, and we can actually custom code our own grabber to go in, grab the transaction information, the statements, and more specifically, the images for you. By going into here, the premium bank list is a bit smaller, as you will see, but we're continuously adding on new institutions every single week. Once you've made this connection, it's going to go through, it's going to ask you for your username, your password, and of course, the security token. If it needs a one-time password, will pop up right on the screen. This is also where it's really important, again, by having this set up with the client and having their the information sent to their phone, they can get that security token right on their phone, copy, paste it right in, and make it super easy. Now, the reason we have these two bottom ones here is what we found is over time, Mastercard doesn't support certain institutions for statements. Chase is a big example of that, and Capital One. So we custom created our own statement grabbers for these. But the good news is, if you go through the first one at the top here, you're going to go through the whole process, and before it's done, you'll get a pop-up and it'll say, hey, do you want these statements as well? You'll say yes, and you'll go through and do the connection a second time. So by doing the two pieces, it makes it very nice and easy for you. There's also an extended video that explains even more about this at the top. Once you've made that connection, that's when you're going to see a box that's going to pop up on the side here. Now, we all know First Republican Bank is no longer with us, which is why we have this text client to fix box here. But when you make the initial connection, the language that's inside of here is going to be updating, and it's going to be telling you what's going on. It's going to say, making connection, extracting historical data, pulling in, so forth. There will also be a little spinning dial on the screen so you know things are working. It's okay to leave this screen and go and do something else. Depending on how many accounts there are, it may take a little bit longer for pull all the information in, and we will initially try to pull up to 90 days worth of information. It is possible to request historical information up to 2 years if the information is available online. So keep in mind, we can only grab stuff that's available through an online portal, of course. Now, once all the information has been pulled in, you would see a list of all the different accounts that you have access to. If there are certain accounts you don't wish to have on here, say personal accounts as well, you can click the trash can and have them removed. From here, we can go over to our transaction table. Now, the transaction table is going to give you a list of all your different transactions, and this gives you the ability to where you can start to filter either by account. We've got our filter icon here. You can do it by a date range, amount, so forth. So if you're using this to specifically come in and download transactions and upload to a certain platform, you can filter by the date range, select which one you like first, hit and hold your shift button, go to whichever you would like, and then you're going to have these different download options. You can download as a .qbo file, and a .qbo file is going to work best for your QuickBooks desktop and enterprise environment when you want to pull in through the bank feed area there. It does work with other cloud-based accounting platforms as well, like Accounting CS. .ofx works across basically all cloud-based accounting platforms. It's the new standard, basically. And then you have your .csv. The .csv gives us accountants the ability to manipulate, change, do whatever you need to do with the file, convert it however you wish. If you're using different cloud-based accounting platforms that already have a bank feed, this is still a great resource because we all know from time to time that bank feed disconnects, clients change their passwords, they forget to update it inside there, don't let you know, so forth. And you could come into here and grab and download just the transactions you need and then go and upload them wherever you need to go to. Speaking of issues when it comes to keeping bank feeds connected, this is where we've really focused on our client communication center. Having worked with bank feeds for many, many years now, we've all probably had those clients that either they can't remember their password and they can't seem to change it every 2 weeks, or there are institutions out there that just require you to change your password every 90 days or so. This makes our job as accountants very difficult, having to try to manage and make sure they remind us when those passwords have been updated so we can continue to fetch and gather this information for you. With that in mind, Ledgersync built out this client communication center. It will give a full listing of all your different clients and any of the connections that have invalid credentials. We've truly found 85 to 90+% of all errors have to do with credentials being changed. So we gave you the ability to set up different template messages. And instead of having to go client by client, account by account, you can come in here, click on Notify Clients, choose which the accounts you want to notify, choose the template you'd like to send to people, and these are customizable. So it can seem as if it's coming directly from your company, and send out a message to each of them. If they have multiple institutions that have bad connections, it will be an individual text for each one with the link they need to click to go in and re-update their username, their password, so forth. Now, the nice thing with this is that link is good for 2+ days. So we don't have to worry about that whole phone call. You can be available in 10 minutes to give me a password. You can have them do this to make sure everything stays connected. As an accountant with my team, we usually do this at least go in and look at it a week before we're ready to do our month-end processing to make sure we always have all the information that we need. This is a really, really cool functionality we've worked really hard to provide to everybody. So if we go back over to our bank accounts tab at the top here, let's go back over and let's talk from the transaction table. One of the things we also do is we have this MTD statement button. So this really comes into play for your credit card accounts. What this will do is it will give you the ability to run a month-to-date statement. We're going to talk about statements in a moment here, but credit card companies like to make it difficult for us and they close halfway through the month. And if your firm is like ours, where we do a hard close every month, we're going to reconcile the statements that we receive, of course, but then we can do this month-to-date statement to find out what the balance should be and what transactions have cleared so we can do that same reconciliation at the end of the month there as well. Speaking of statements, if we go to our Statements tab here, we'll see that you'll have a list of all of the different statements for all of your different accounts. And this can be filtered down by the different accounts that you're setting up inside of here, of course. And we have a couple different ways to work with this. You can, of course, come in and click on the download button here, and you can go download, download, download. The nice thing about this is, it's gonna be hard for you to kind of see, but the way we do the naming convention is it's got the last date of the month on the statement, the client name, the financial institution, and then the last 4 digits of the account. So it's not like when you go to different banks and you download, it says PDF 1, PDF 2, PDF 3. If you happen to have somebody that's just a data collection person, you could bulk download, boom, 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 and still be able to know what each of these are for. You could also click on View to pull it up. Or we also have our reconciliation window here. Now, I like to call this our backups, backups, backup. What I mean by that is I have 2 monitors. I will have this set up where, for myself, I'll have QuickBooks Online opened up onto one. I can pull up this statement and I can very easily see the beginning balance, the ending balance. And then what we're doing on the screen is we're verifying that all transactions have been accounted for, that it's all reconciled to where you could then take and still export a copy of this as an Excel file or a .qbo file. Again, for me, I like it as a quick, easy way to look at the statement itself, do my reconciliation, go back, go to the next one, and keep moving and keep moving, keep moving. Just makes my workflow very nice and efficient this way. The other nice thing about this, and why I call it the backup, is, as we mentioned before, sometimes bank feeds, well, they try to be a little bit too helpful. If you've ever had a client that bills out the same $20 charge to 10 or 15 people on the exact same day, sometimes bank feeds will try to automatically remove some, thinking they're duplicates. Or again, if they just disconnected and you're concerned, this is a place where you could see, get that download and know for sure that you have everything there. So now let's go back to our bank accounts tab here, and we'll go over to our checks. When it comes to checks, we're actually talking about all of our different images because it's for both check and deposit images depending on the financial institution. When we take a look at this, what we're doing, this is part of the premium accounts that Ledgersync does. We are doing our own custom coding and grabbing to go pull images for you and bring it back and show it to you on a single scrolling page. As you can see here, what we're doing is we're actually going in, we've been building out a large language model to help us start to be able to try to read the names off of the checks as well, even with handwriting. But most important, we're grabbing dates off of it, we're grabbing the amounts, we're grabbing the check number, so you can go from the top here and do quite a bit of filtering. You'll be able to filter by check or deposit. And I want you to fast forward 6 months plus. When you have a whole bunch of information, these type of filters really come into play. You can also filter by amount or for check number to and from. If you select these, you can also click them and you can export these all to a PDF as well. So as we talk about the different tools, one of the nice things we allow you to do is you can add on as many employees into the system as you'd like to do. One of the best examples we have of this is with some of our larger accounting firms. We've got firms that have 50 different accountants internally, and then each of them have a global team member assigned to them. And the nice thing with that is they're able to go in and assign every single one of the clients to all of the accountants in case they need to help one of their associates. But the global team members, they can actually come in and only assign just access to the ones they should be specifically working on. Now, a little hack I like to do is when I have a client that adds on an employee like the office manager, or as I call it, the boots on the ground, I will go in and add that person on to have access specifically to that client as well, because it gives them a way to have access to all the different accounts or institutions they need access to, see all of the transactions, and even be able to see what checks have cleared or not without necessarily having to give us a call. This really gets them into the program itself and helps make sure that we keep all of the username passwords up to date, because it becomes a great resource for them to be able to use also. Now, under the tools, we also have our different versions of document storage. Ledgersync offers its own internal document storage that every time you add a client on, there will be a subfolder set up for them. And inside of this, you'll be able to have different folders for like statements, so forth. You'll notice that each of these end up having a unique email address. You can do this to where you can email or forward over documents that can be stored inside of here for like a single source of truth, or you can just come and upload them yourself. Now, I'm not as big a fan of sending sensitive information like this through email, so I also like to draw attention to our cloud storage connections that we have. We connect to Dropbox, Google Drive, SharePoint, and OneDrive, which truly means Teams, Box, as well as SmartVault. And with each of these connections, you can do an individual connection for whichever client you want, of course, and you can map where that data goes to per client, so separate folders for each of the clients. This is a really cool thing, and it's an amazing workflow because it allows you, if you think about this, you've now had your client go through, and your client is going to be the one that's going to connect Ledgersync to the financial institutions, so they have the username and password. You don't necessarily have to have that. Once the data is sucked into Ledgersync, then it's going to be saved into our system, And a key thing to remember, when we grab the data, we store that data for you until you tell us to cancel the account. I'm saying this on purpose because there are many institutions that after 90 days, they stop storing certain check images or statements and so forth. Once we grab it, we'll have everything for you in here. Even better though, you can add employee access, manage who they can see or what they can or cannot see. Or if you truly take the time, you map it to one of these drives, such as, again, a Smart Vault, a Dropbox, whichever you like. You can have it set up where everything is basically pushed automatically and updated, pushed into those folders. So now you don't even have to log into Ledgersync. Everything's all organized into one single place. As a person who doesn't do taxes, I like this because it makes it very easy for year end for me to capture all the information, put it together as a packet to give to my client's tax professional. Another tool we like to tell you about is our PDF converter. And what this does, if you may remember, I downloaded a statement earlier. This gives us the ability to take a PDF statement and we're going to pull it in and be able to grab all the information off of it for you. Basically parse it. You can switch the amounts from positive to negative in case it's for a credit card versus checking or savings. And then you can download this as either an Excel file or a .csv file, either way. Our goal with this is to provide you an additional tool that you don't have to go out and actually purchase. So this is a great value add. Now, the next tool I'm really excited to tell you about is our global rules engine. And this is something we've been working very hard on for the last year. The premise behind this is, starting with QuickBooks Online, of course, every single time you add on a brand new client, you have to go in and create a whole new set of bank rules for each of those different clients. Then we started to think about the fact, well, what if you could actually have rules that lived above the different client files? For example, Chevron's pretty much always going to be fuel. You could start to create some global rules that could work across all the different client files in a much more efficient manner. What you're looking at right now is our transaction table that we have as part of our rules engine. And you're going to notice that in the client column here, there's different client names across all of these. I can expand the size of this, of course. This is because we set up and give you the ability to create both client level rules and global rules, and then process them just like you would for review, categorized, excluded in like a QuickBooks Online environment across all the different clients. Now, the bubbles on the side here, the green bubbles, these are our global rules. So that's a rule that works across all different clients. You assign a global category, it makes it nice and easy. The blue bubbles are our client level rules. During the initial setup, you have the ability, you can go to your QuickBooks Online company file, download the rules that already exist there, import them right into Ledgersync so you don't have to recreate the wheel, and then basically upgrade those to global rules themselves. We have additional videos that go into deeper detail, but in this video, I want to show you the functionality and really how this works. So again, single transaction table, you have all of your different transactions. For review idea, you can come through, you could actually use filtering here. I clicked on rules applied, so we see just the ones automatic that have the rules. I could select by a specific client if I wanted to, or here we're working across all of them, and I can select the different ones that I want to take and push into basically accept them. So click accept. Any of these, as I do that, will then be pushed either to categorized or excluded. And the reason I say this is part of the way we've done this is when you create rules, you have the ability to create exclude rules. This is important because when we push transactions to QuickBooks Online, which I'll show in a moment, everything goes directly into a general ledger. So there are certain times if you're using third-party applications, say you're using Intuit Merchant Processing, and it's already going to create the payment and the merchant fee, you would want to exclude those kind of transactions from being pushed in a second time. You'll see the layout is very similar, same idea, bank text, conditioning, contains, enter amount. We only do bank text because we find that to be it's more efficient than the description itself, which is a cleaned up version and usually causes problems. So that exclude rule, again, another example is like if you're using ADP payroll and you've mapped out the journal entry, you would want to create certain exclude rules for those payments that have been pushed in automatic. Once you've reviewed the different transactions, you'd come through and into your categorized area, and you'll see all the different transactions have been categorized still across the different clients. Now, on the filter here again, we have synced versus not synced. So we're going to click on not synced on purpose because once you've synced these, as we're going to show in just a moment here, you can select these all in bulk. I'm just going to do a couple real quick here. This is how you would do it takes one extra step, and then you sync and push these directly into QuickBooks Online. Everything we push into QuickBooks Online, you will end up being able to see gets pushed in. See at the very top here, you can click onto it. We have added in at the end of every description this little up caret and then LS imported. This is our safety net. So you'll always know things that were pushed in through Ledgersync or not. Now, more important than that though is, as we built this out, we recognize we needed to be able to prove that even if you have the bank feed connected here and rules running through, you'll notice as the transactions are sitting in here, they'll start to show up as a match for every single thing. So until you feel 100% confident, you recognize that we're connecting to more institutions, pushing everything in, and it's working great, you could leave everything set up here and then simply come in and exclude these for already being matched or just choose to match them. Inside of Ledgersync, we do also recognize though, that there are going to be times possibly where somebody makes a mistake. They get a little happy with pushing things in. So if I come back over here and go to synced, I can actually come in and I can select anything that was pushed in by accident, and I can click on delete from QuickBooks. And this is going to completely remove those transactions as if they were never, ever, ever pushed in. The synced date would go away as well. So if it happened to be a situation, maybe somebody created a rule wrong, you could then go undo any of those transactions that you need to do, push them back to full review, fix the rule, and then push them all back in. Most important, we also have an audit log that shows everything inside of here. So anytime that we're pushing transactions in, or if we're removing transactions, you'll see we export the transactions, which they were, the ones we deleted. And then on top of that, anything that's been exported, if you are logged into that company file, you would actually see it popped up as long as you didn't already delete it, of course. When we do our push of transactions, and if you're doing it across multiple company files on purpose, that's where this sync status tab comes into play. The sync status tab here is going to let you know anytime you create a job to push transactions in. If there's ever a situation that certain transactions failed to go through, it's going to let you know total transactions, ones that synced, if there are any that failed, a list of why they may have failed. So you can really see exactly what happened every single time. To think about the power of this, this means you no longer have to go in and out and in and out and in and out of company files to be processing transactions all the time. You could actually come right into here for review them, update them, process them all within a given period of time, and save tons of time going back and forth. A big part of how this works is we have what we call our global categories. Our global categories gives you a way to set this up and be able to map out for each of the clients different categories and then map down to unique accounts that you would like. So what I mean by this is, you'll notice when I pull this up, I call it bank feeds. We have a description on purpose. It's important to do so your team members will remember what you're using it for and why. And then for each of the different clients, you can choose where you want this to go to. As you can see with most of these, it says bank charges, but at the bottom one here, it's bank fees. Or maybe it's a parent sub account. However you map this, it will follow that to the direct place it's supposed to go to. This is a great way whether you're a niched practice and you have a very, very solid vendor list and chart of accounts, you can set this up and assign for all the different clients, or you could create different global categories for different industries and have only certain clients set up for different ones to help that processing through the whole thing. As you can see through here, we have two different columns, assigned clients and unassigned clients. So you can always tell if there may be something like this one where clients haven't been assigned and it wouldn't be triggering that global rule. Now, if you're interested to learn more about any of the stuff we've shown you, be sure to go over to Ledgersync's website, ledgersync.com. And at the top, if you click on schedule a demo, you'll get to our calendars. This is where you'll see our weekly webinar. You can book a time. We'll go through very much of the stuff we just did here, of course, but you can, of course, ask additional questions. You could also reach out to our team, speaking with Ludi, our onboarding specialist, or Maurice, our founder, and he will help answer those questions for you as well. So if you haven't taken the chance to check out Ledgersync, be sure to do it today. Stop wasting time trying to collect all the transactions, the statements, and all those images you need to get all the financial data and process your monthly accounting for all of your clients. Thanks for watching.